an evil queen, a runaway princess, monkey boys, and pantsless lollies. Wait, what? Hello YouTube, Gaming Goddess here with a review on Final Fantasy IX. This is a Japanese role-playing game published by Square for the original PlayStation. Being the most requested game in the Final Fantasy franchise, I present you with my honest opinion, as well as what to expect when playing this game. So with that being said, let's get into the review. Let's take a look at the general gameplay. If you've played Final Fantasy before, then you should pretty much know the basics of the game. If not, don't worry, it's totally easy to get the hang of. In Final Fantasy IX, the player will navigate the character around the world, exploring different locations and interacting with non-playable characters, as well as fighting a variety of monsters. Most of the game will take place in a town or dungeon. These areas are known as field screens. The player can interact with Moogles, which allows the player to save and access the Mognet. Sometimes Moogles will ask the player to deliver letters to other Moogles in the game. The player will also have access to a variety of shops as well as an inn. Now, traveling isn't always going to be from one field screen to the next. The game also features a world map. The world map is a 3D representation of the Final Fantasy IX world and is presented in a top-down view. The player can freely navigate the world unless mountains or other types of terrain stop where the player can go. There are ways to get around it, like in previous Final Fantasy games such as chocobos, boats, and airships. Of course, the world map isn't exactly safe either. Random enemy encounters will happen as the player is traveling on the world map. With that being said, let's take a look at the combat system. Whenever a player encounters a monster, the map will change to the battle screen. Monsters will appear on the opposite side of the player's party, and the battle system will be the ever so familiar active time battle that was first introduced in Final Fantasy IV. It's actually pretty similar to any other turn-based battle system in my opinion. All party members can use physical attacks, items, and each have their own set of skills that they can use during battle. Once a character enters trance mode, their special set of skills will become a little bit different during the time it's available. As a monster attacks the player, a gauge will fill up. Once the gauge is completely filled, the player will then enter trance mode. This is very similar to Final Fantasy VII's Limit Break, which is much cooler in my opinion. When the player wins a battle, the player will then be rewarded with experience points, money, items, Tetra Master playing cards, and ability points. Equipment is a pretty basic yet important feature in the Final Fantasy games. When arming each character with a certain weapon or different types of equipment, it will increase a certain stat on that character. But wait, there's more. Remember when I said each character has their own set of skills? This is because in Final Fantasy IX, each piece of equipment will have a set of abilities and skills that the different party members can learn as long as it matches their class. Of course, these abilities and skills require a certain number of AP before they can be used without having the item equipped. Now let's take a look at the Tetra Master card game. This card game is similar to a mini-game and isn't necessary to beating the game. I'm not going to go into full detail about how the game is played, but the player can obtain cards from random monster encounters, in chests, or from beating someone at the card game itself. Players assemble a deck of 5 cards and take turns placing the cards on a 4x4 playing grid. A winner is determined by whoever has the most cards under their control. Personally, I don't really care for this minigame at all. It was very frustrating to get the hang of, and when I did win, I wasn't completely satisfied. So with the overall general gameplay out of the way, let's now take a look at the graphics and audio in this game. Now, being an older Final Fantasy game, there is no voice acting involved, which is fine for me since I grew up with it. The music, on the other hand, isn't my personal favorite. I feel like other Final Fantasy games have a way better soundtrack than this. Each area has its own specific background music, so it's not entirely repetitive other than the fact that it plays on a loop, but that's not why I don't like it. There's just something about the majority of the songs that sound real slow and real depressing. As for the graphics, I understand that they wanted to give FF9 more of a cartoon fantasy look, but I personally don't like it. It actually looks kinda bad for its time, and Final Fantasy VIII had way better graphics than this. Now let's take a look at the pros and cons based on my opinion on this game. First, some pros would include different playable characters. Sometimes the player will be allowed to take control of another party, which I think is pretty cool. A great battle system, and different mini games along the way. As for the cons, the graphics are definitely not what I expected. I don't really like the music, the story seems really slow, and the story is also really depressing. Now, I've played this game twice, once a long time ago, and again today for this review. My overall opinion on it does not change from when I first played to now. I understand a lot of people think this is the greatest Final Fantasy game in history, and even the producer of the game himself says this is his favorite, and that it's how he originally visualized the Final Fantasy franchise. But I am not here to praise a game I personally do not like. I give my honest opinion, and honestly, this game is both boring and depressing. Yes, there are some good things about it, and once you understand what's going on in the game's story, it's not as confusing, and it's actually written pretty well. It's also kinda cute how Zidane has a crush on the princess, but it's even more creepy and weird that a 6-year-old first off looks like she's not wearing pants, and second is madly in love with Zidane. Final Fantasy IX gets an overall score of 3 out of 10 for me. This shouldn't stop you from playing it, and it definitely shouldn't stop you from calling it your favorite. I will admit the general gameplay mechanics are great. This is one of the things I love about the Final Fantasy games. But some games just don't give me the same excitement as I got when I played Final Fantasy V or Final Fantasy VII. If you like this video, leave a like. Also comment your opinion as well. I love reading and responding to everyone's comments. This has been a Gaming Goddess review, and remember to keep on gaming.